Streaming live from the Paul and Catherine Ranke Memorial Studio, this is TV Free Baltimore. Support for TV Free Baltimore comes from viewers like you. Become a TV Free Baltimore member by visiting patreon.com/TV Free Baltimore.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Beyond the Streets. Political season's done. We had a lot of politicians come in, did a lot of interviews, but I'm kind of glad that's over. We're bringing back an old friend and a show that's been on TV Free since its inception, and we're going to go Beyond the Streets with Marcus Strider Dent. How you doing, Strider?
I'm good, Charles. How are you?
Pretty good. Nice to see that you've come back, and a nice little refreshing break from all the politicians that we had in here. Let's talk about crime in Baltimore City, particularly with the squeegee kids. I think everybody's been following that situation, doesn't need too much background, but what are your thoughts on the crime in Baltimore City?
It's just a mess. I think Baltimore has too much going on right now, and I think that we got to figure out what we can do to shake this up and kind of balance things out here. You know, you mentioned the squeegee kids. And it's sad to say, you know, recently we had that the killing of Timothy Rentals. And the bad thing about that is this is something, in my opinion, that could have been avoided. We've had so many complaints about the squeegee kids. We've had so many incidences about the squeegee kids. You know, we've had a senator who was assaulted. You know, with this, you've had videos and all this stuff that comes on when realistically, all you had to do was take them off the corners.
You've been down in the city for how many years? Like 2008?
Going on 16 years.
16 years you've been down in the city helping, doing your neighborhood watch program and doing what you can to help reduce crime in the city. And I was standing there shoulder to shoulder with you for years. And things seem to have gotten worse, unfortunately. And I know for a fact the energy that a community advocate has to put out just to get a stupid criminal off the street. It's amazing that these politicians are so anti-police and so pro-criminal, particularly the current state's attorney who, thank God, lost her re-election bid. Do you think that the new state's attorney coming in is going to do a better job than the current one that we have?
He can't do worse. And I think that Ivan Bates has, I mean, he's a smart guy. You know, he won the election. You know, he's an experienced lawyer. I think that in a way, he's sitting back and he's saying to himself, man, you know, he sees everything that's going on. And I don't think he's going to come in making the same mistakes or running that office the same way it was run before. So soon as he comes into office, everybody's going to be watching Ivan Bates saying, okay, let's see what changes he makes. And his job's going to be hard because he can prosecute as the law states. He can say, okay, I'm going to go to court and I'm going to fight for this, this, and that. You know, one thing he's not going to be able to do is he's not going to be able to make the police officers go out there and enforce the laws that are on the books. But I think he knows what he's up against when it comes to the state's attorney's office, because you think about it, you got so much going on with the state's attorney's office. It's in a shambles. I don't care what nobody says. It's in a shambles and it's a mess. And he's got to come in. It's just like going into an old building that's been ransacked and you want to move inside. Now what do you got to do? You got to rebuild that entire building. You've got to fix it all over again. He's got so much to change. And the sad thing is that the citizens of Baltimore are going to be sitting on the street waiting for him to make his first decision and see exactly what it is he does. But I got a lot of faith in him. Like I said, he's a sharp guy. I think he knows what he has to do. The hard part is he going to be able to do it?
Well, only a government can arrest, prosecute, and incarcerate criminals. And I think that you've got a government in Baltimore City. You have a police force that I think would be willing to arrest people if the prosecutors would prosecute and the judges would incarcerate. But you've got just the opposite. You've got police that are being beaten down on. You've got prosecutors that are just letting criminals walk. And you've got judges, like you said, that just will not incarcerate people. And they're trying to, from my experience, push a liberal agenda from the bench. I think they're trying to essentially legalize drugs from the bench. So when a drug dealer is coming in, causing all kinds of violence and problems in a community, the judges don't want to put him in jail. Well, as you know, when Pat Jessime was the state's attorney, she had community representatives in each community. And as you also know, the viewers may not know, that's the period in which I was a community activist and very active in the city. And what shocked the heck out of me was that these people in positions of power and influences were so concerned about the guy dealing drugs and would never even mention the law-abiding house painter that had to come out of his house every day and look down the street and see the guy dealing drugs, whose car was broken into by the junkies, or the law-abiding electrician, plumber, the normal people that were law-abiding, which greatly outnumbered these thugs and drug dealers and gangbangers. The people in power had no concern for the average law-abiding person, but was so concerned on making excuses on why this particular drug dealer, that particular gang member, or that particular violent person shouldn't be incarcerated. It just, I would lose my mind when I would meet with these people. I remember one time I was meeting with a community representative from the state's attorney's office, and they finally did, after years of a guy getting arrested for drug dealers, they finally put him away for like 90 days. And this woman said to me, "You don't know how many strings I had to pull and how many favors I had to pull in just to get that guy in jail for 90 days for you." And I'm like, the guy's got a record 20 miles long, and you had to pull strings and pull in favors to get that guy in jail? It's just, it's like the city government's just upside down. It's just the way these people think just amazes me. And I know you've come across the same thing.
Well, yeah, but I do think that there's got to be some accountability when it comes to the judges in the court also. And I mean, you look at the guy Luther Trent, who burned down his girlfriend's house, and he got out of there. You know, and I know they say, well, you know, the state's attorney's office recommended this and recommended that, but at the same time, doesn't the judge have the last say? Aren't they the ones that say, hey, you know what, this has got to stop? Yeah. But I think now, because we've had issues in Baltimore with some of these judges, and a lot of this stuff has come back to bite them. Mm-hmm. So you would think that these judges are going to say, well, wait a minute, you know what? Now I got to pretty much watch what it is I do, because this is starting to affect the lives of other people. Yeah. If I don't make the right decision, this could come back to bite not only me, but somebody else who's going to be this person's victim later on down the road. Yeah. And the thing is, and I think that a lot of this stuff that's going on needs to be addressed by the community even more. I think that the community needs to stand out and say, okay, you know we voted for these people, we put them in office, but at the same time, you know, you can't just let politicians and authority people and all this stuff lead everything. The community's got to say, look, you know, here's our mission. This is what happens with us. This is how this person is affecting our community and our neighborhood. This is how your decision has to change and help empower community safety. You know, public safety is a big deal, and we charged you with public safety. You have to do what you got to do to keep the public safe. And I think that, I don't know, we kind of slipped on that here, especially in Baltimore City. But I mean, it's a real thing, and you know, it seems now crime is just so prevalent, and you can't say that anybody's safe. Remember when you used to be able to say that the crime was bad in certain neighborhoods? You knew not to go to that neighborhood because the crime was bad. Now, where can you go? It's happening at Johns Hopkins. It's happening in Fells Point. It's happening at the Inner Harbor. It's happening right outside the police station. Crime is everywhere. So now's the time to start putting this together. You got to figure something out because you can't just let it go on.
You mentioned Johns Hopkins. Let's touch on what's going on with their private police force. I haven't looked into that recently. Have you? Do you know what's going on with that?
What agitates me about this is we know that Baltimore City has a shortage of police officers. They're down. Crime is bad. And when you talk about Johns Hopkins, this is not Safeway or Walmart or Rite Aid. This is Johns Hopkins University, okay? Other places have their own police department. Then we have students of Johns Hopkins who interrupted a meeting about starting their police force, chanting and moaning and fighting. We don't want this. This is this. This is that. But yet these are the same guys that are getting robbed outside the hospital and the universities also. But yet you don't want a police department there. I think that has got to be the dumbest thing that anybody has ever done. And you think about, if you can afford to go to Johns Hopkins, okay, as a student, don't sit there and protest a police force when realistically you're going to go to school and then you're going to go home. Look at the communities around you. See the people that it affects right here. I just think that that's got to be the most asinine thing I've ever heard. They've been fighting for this. They need this. It's only going to help Baltimore City. Give them the police force. That is,
yeah, I completely agree. I think I was actually working in Annapolis when they started talking about this and started, preparing the legislation for this. But with the state of the police department in Baltimore City, I completely support Johns Hopkins and having their own police force. And why is this still a thing? I'll bet you. Now, you look at all the police officers that are short in Baltimore City Police Department. I'll bet you that if they said tomorrow, Johns Hopkins gets their own police force, can you imagine all the people that are going to apply for that job instead of Baltimore City? And I think they said that Baltimore City's got the highest starting rate out here. And you talk about the police in Baltimore City. There are good cops out there. Mm-hmm. You have to want to be a police officer to be a police officer, right? Yeah. So if you support the cops, these cops want to do their job. And can you imagine how sick they are of the politics and the crap that goes on behind the scenes that won't let them do their job? You have people assaulting police officers. When a police officer strikes back, what are your first thing you do? We're going to take him down. We're going to figure out what's going on. No. You assaulted a police officer. Yeah. It's just the craziest thing in the world. So who wants that job? Yeah. Here's another thing that we have to fix right away. It's got to be fixed. If you don't want to die, you don't want to get shot, you don't want to get beat up by the police, don't touch them. And you don't want to get sued by the state's attorney.
But at the same, and now you got to worry about that. You're a cop. Yeah. You can't do your job effectively.
Right.
Because you're worried about now, okay, I'll go do my job, and then I'm going to get sued for a job that I was hired to do.
Right, or end up in jail for 20 years.
It's a mess, man. It's just all a mess. And then that's not just Baltimore. That's all across the country. Yeah. This is everywhere.
Yeah.
And you got police forces all over the country, and they're wondering, I wonder why we're losing cops. Yeah, it's a mess, because we can't make crime legal.
What's on the horizon for the Baltimore chapter Guardian Angels in 2023?
Well, what I'm hoping to do with the Baltimore Guardian Angels in 2023, and we're kind of walking toward that way slowly. But I want to get the Guardian Angels back into the communities again, not just in Baltimore City, but we're hoping to get into the Baltimore County and the different areas around. And of course, as Guardian Angels, we kind of branch out to help the other chapters across the state. So we're going to try to do more of that and get involved with some of that stuff. But what I want to do with our communities is I want to start getting back into the communities again. I want to start building relationships between the Guardian Angels and the communities and the police and the states. I want to get the public officials back in. We should do our public safety meetings. We had everybody come to the table. But I think my biggest drive for the Guardian Angels in Baltimore is to get the communities back involved in their own communities. Because realistically, you want to make a community better, the community has to do it. and you have to accept the partnerships of those who can help you. So you can't just leave it up to your politicians or your police department or your community volunteers anymore. You have to get involved. And I think there's no better time than now. And of course, we're always looking for people who can come in who have something that they can bring to the table as guardian angels. And I think that that's what our goal is going to be. And you're going to see a lot of the guardian angels more in chosen communities. So that's what I'm hoping to do.
From where you're sitting, do you see anything positive going on right now in Baltimore City that may give it some sort of hope for the near future?
Hey, we just had the elections. You know, I see Ivan Bates coming in. I see things kind of turning around with him. And when you talk about the positive thing that goes on, remember, I'm a guardian angel. So I focus on the crime and the violence and all the kind of stuff that bring victims to the surface. And so that's where my head goes. So yeah, I see a positive change when it comes to how crime is punished in Baltimore, or how crime is held accountable, or criminals. Because you think about it, that's the main thing. And you know, once you get a handle on that, you know what happens. The communities get better. Okay, the businesses get better. The atmosphere, the environments, everything just starts coming back to life. And I see this happening in Baltimore City with this new change. So that's what I'm looking for. And like I said, you know, it's you know, it's great to say, oh, you know, we're the positive, but remember, that's the circles that I run in.
Okay, is there anything that we haven't touched on this evening that you'd like to touch on before we go?
No, I think we touched on quite a bit, but I want people that watch this, I want you to chime in, and I want you to tell me what your thoughts are, what you think would make a better Baltimore. You know, everybody has something. You know, what do you see that can make a better Baltimore? And don't just blame people. Just, you know, like I said, I want to see Baltimore become better. What can make Baltimore better with you? Remember the days of the marble steps, and everybody cleaned the marble steps, and everybody was proud of what we had going on. Those days can come back if the community brings them back. And we have so many great community leaders that are working in Baltimore City that don't get acknowledgement, that don't get recognized, but they're out there every single day. They're helping the homeless. They're helping their communities. They're building parks. And there's way too many of them to name, but they're out there. And anybody who watches this video, I'm sure you can sit there and say to yourself, you know what? I can think of one person that's in my neighborhood that always tries to do things, is always doing something. There are so many people out there. We just need a little bit more.
Strider, I want to thank you for coming in this evening. It's been way too long, but you and I know each other on a personal level. I know what you're entangled with and why you haven't been in, but I hope that in 2023, you will be a constant presence in this studio. We've got some interesting things that look like they're going to come to fruition. So I hope you'll be a part of that.
Well, you know, the Guardian Angels and TV Free Baltimore has always been a great partner. And we will definitely be here because we want our activities as Guardian Angels to be a little bit more transparent. We want the community to know what we're doing. And we want the community to come to us and say, hey, what do you got going on and how can we help?
Mm-hmm. And just to echo what you were saying about so many people that go unrecognized, one of the reasons that I built TV Free Baltimore was to bring those type of people in here and recognize them. And that's why we have a lot of local actors, authors, producers, film people, people that are running for office for the first time. So, you know, maybe this in 2023, we can go into the communities and find those unsung heroes that should be recognized and need to be recognized that the mainstream media just, they either don't see or they don't want to deal with.
Well, I tell you what, I will promise you that I myself will be on the streets. I will bring those people to TV Free Baltimore and because they need to get their words out there.
Yeah. Okay, on that, I want to say to our viewers, thank you for tuning in. I'm very excited to have Strider back in the studio. Like I said before, it's been way too long. And stay tuned. We have some interesting things that I can't mention at this point, but if they do develop, we're going to have some very, very exciting people coming in soon. So see you next time.